good afternoon, everybody. We are really thrilled to be here because we all know how important public safety is in our city. And we also know that you can't have full safety unless our streets are safe and people are able to get from point A to point B as safely as possible. And so I'm thrilled to be here with our partners from both the state and the city to celebrate the launch of an initiative that has been quite long in the making. And that's to add another piece of the puzzle to our traffic safety system. And today we are officially flipping the on switch to make sure that we have speeding cameras in our city. In other words, if you're speeding, you could get a photograph taken of your license plate. That photograph will be sent in the mail, and you could get a ticket. Importantly, and I want to be clear on this, the cameras are only able to capture the images of the plate. They will not capture any facial information or beyond. This is about safety, not surveillance. At the heart of this idea is a really simple one, which is that we need to keep pedestrians safe. Our officers that do law enforcement can't be everywhere all at once. Even if we added dramatically to the number of police that we had in our department, they could not be everywhere all at once. And so we wanted safe mechanisms that have been tried before, that are utilized in other cities and other states throughout the country, that would allow us to have traffic enforcement, but would also allow us to use this process efficiently. And so this has been really long in the making, and I want to give a huge thank you to the state legislators that are here with us. They're going to be speaking shortly, but it's due to their work. It's due to the work of our Public Works Department, people like Ethan Foley, who've been working on it for years now, that this is finally coming to fruition. As of today, we are turning on the cameras for 5 different locations, and that's for speeding. But next year, we're going to add to the mix even further and add at least another 11 cameras that are going to go to a combination of both speeding and red light. So again, the first cameras, they go live today. This is a very big step for public safety in our city. Going to create stronger neighborhoods with plenty more to come. And with that, I'm very proud to turn it over to our key partners at the state legislature. And I will start with Representative Sensamira. Thank you so much for their support. Let me be clear, we could not have done this without them. This used to be against the law. They now gave cities the ability to keep people safer, and we are so proud of their work because they made this happen.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Sensamura. I'm the state representative for District 63A, representing part of South Minneapolis, and I'm also a member of the House Transportation Committee. But really, first and foremost, I'm a mom, and I know that when I think about public safety in this city and I think about what is most scary for me as a mom, thinking about my kids out on our streets, it's traffic safety, right? It's the way that people are driving and the wish that I have for them that they can run outside, that they can play in our front lawn, and they can be safe. And we know that since the pandemic, we have seen a huge uptick in unsafe driving in cities around our country and certainly here in Minneapolis. So that's really what propelled me to want to be part of this legislation. You know, I will say at first, I was skeptical about this piece of legislation, as I think, numerous community members have been. I've lived in Minneapolis long enough that I was one of those people that did, about 20 years ago, get one of the tickets for the previous system that we had when I was about a 16-year-old driver. And some folks may know that at that time, cities did not have the authority to implement this kind of program. So when we came back to this legislation, we were really thoughtful about the approach that we wanted to have. We know that folks in our community have real concerns about surveillance, and we know that there have been times when these kind of programs have been used to disproportionately impact certain members of our community. So we really wanted to make sure that whatever system we designed was equitable. So that's why you'll see when you look at the map of where the cameras are, they are across our city, right? And we know that we don't want to be targeting one community, but we also know that unsafe driving is happening everywhere. And so I was really convinced by talking to folks at the city who have really dug in deep on this, who've looked at the data, who've said, what are all of the things we need to do to achieve the Vision Zero of zero traffic deaths? There's a lot of work we need to do, and at the state we are committed partners in that. We need to redesign some of our roads that are highways, ripping, like, street roads that are like highways ripping through our community where people are driving way too fast that incentivize bad driving behavior. But in the interim, we can put in these traffic safety cameras, and I do believe they will make our streets safer, and I do believe that they have the possibility of saving lives in our community. So I'm excited about the thoughtful approach we took. We're doing a pilot program with 2 cities, Minneapolis being one of them, because of the groundwork that they had laid to really be able to successfully implement this kind of policy. I'm looking forward to seeing how this rolls out in Minneapolis, to see the expansion of these cameras to potentially include red light cameras, so that we can go back to the legislature and see if we want to continue this program both here in Minneapolis and statewide. So I look forward to digging into the data, and I'm happy that today our streets will just be a little bit safer. Now I would love to invite my partner in this piece of legislation in the Senate, Senator Zainab Mohammed.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to be here with all of you. I'll just mention that first and foremost, this is the work of Ethan. I know he's done work on this from the city staff level, and I really want to thank him because he's made us all better legislators and made us understand this issue better. And this is about saving lives and making our community safer, first and foremost. That's what this is about. The pilot is designed for it to not be punitive, but for it to be preventative. It's also meant to change behavior. We know that many drivers, as Representative Sintamora has mentioned, have been driving recklessly across our cities, especially since post-pandemic. And so this is meant to create a level of behavioral change within our communities. I will also say, as I've carried this policy over the last 3 years, it's gone through many changes and transformations, which is why you see a pilot program between 2 cities currently. It's so that we can have data, so that we can see when people's behavior changes, if it does, and we can have stats so that we can make this a statewide policy. We can't do it without having the backing of the data. It's also meant so that it can ensure that our law enforcement isn't focused on this and that they can focus on actual crimes that are heinous that are happening in our communities. And so I'm really glad that we got it done this past session. Even though it's a pilot program, I think it's going to give us the support for us to make it a statewide program, and I know I intend to do that, and Representative Sintamora intends to do that. As a new member, this legislation has been carried by many, many members before me, and when you're a freshman, you tend to get the hardest bills, and so I will introduce my colleague who's carried this over the years, Senator Scott Dibble. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and let me just add my congratulations and my gratitude to Representative Sintamora, Senator Mohammed. We're going to hear from former Representative Frank Hornstein, my partner in all good things transportation for many, many years, but also I'll add my congratulations to Ethan Foley, who's worked so hard, and Steve Huser, actually, from the IGR staff. The 2 of them have really worked hard to shepherd this idea at the state legislature, get it over the finish line, put a tremendous amount of passion and research over the course of many years into this effort. Minneapolis and Minnesota will be a better place for your efforts, so thank you very much. So this effort aligns with Minnesota's Towards Zero Deaths. You've heard about Vision Zero, which is the initiative at the city level, managed by Ethan Foley. We have the statewide Towards Zero Deaths initiative, which really is a proven collaboration among agencies and jurisdictions and across sector to combine partners in using the 4 E's that we talk about in trying to improve traffic safety, trying to reduce death and harm and property loss, and those are education, enforcement, emergency response, engineering. We might add another E, which is empathy, compassion, understanding the human element, the human tragedy that we're talking about here. We are very focused on driving down fatalities, and kind of comes and goes, but lately it's been moving in the wrong direction. 2023 we had 402 deaths, and in 2024 went all the way up to 477. In 2025, we were already at 282 deaths in Minnesota. So reversing these tragic events is essential. In the Senate Transportation Committee, we dedicate an enormous amount of time and effort to improving the lives, health, and safety of Minnesotans in collaboration with the Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety. We're proud to have reestablished the Council on Traffic Safety 2 years ago to guide this work. Today's action is one more step towards streets and highways where every family can expect their loved one to come home safely, because safety on our streets for everyone, whether you're walking or biking or rolling, is a basic expectation that we have, that we should all have as citizens, as members of this city and this community. Over the past 2 years, more than 40 people have lost their lives on Minneapolis streets due to speeding and reckless driving, and each one of those people is a beloved family member or friend, each loss completely preventable. So the launch of speed enforcement cameras, and then we'll have red light cameras, is an important tool to help us stop this needless suffering. So thank you very much, and I am extremely proud to introduce my former colleague and still one of my very best friends, like I said, my partner, the former chair of the House Transportation Committee, Frank Hornstein.
Thank you, Chairman Dibble, and thanks to everyone at the City of Minneapolis who has helped bring us this legislation and brought us to this day. This legislation enacted will save lives. And as Mayor Fry said, it's been a long time in coming. I first encountered this legislation as a member of the Transportation Committee in 2007. So almost 20 years of working on this bill, working on this concept, making the kinds of changes that Senator Mohammed had mentioned have brought us here, and we can't thank the city enough for their efforts. We have seen an epidemic in deaths, as Senator Dibble mentioned, speeding, primary among them. And the advent of these cameras will be preventative and will, I think, definitely lower the number of deaths and injuries that we have on our roadways. So with tremendous gratitude, I now would like to introduce a member of our City Council who's worked very hard on this, from the 7th Ward, Katie Cashman.
Thank you so much, Representative Horenstein, and thank you everyone for being here. My name is Katie Cashman. I represent the 7th Ward on the Minneapolis City Council, and I chair our Climate and Infrastructure Committee, where we take up transportation safety issues. Every person in our city has been a pedestrian. Every person in our city navigates the streets, whether you're hustling to a show here on Hennepin Avenue or you're leisurely strolling the lakes with your families on the weekend. And every person navigating our city deserves to do so safely. And it is our job as leaders, as legislators, to work across levels of government to solve problems. And I think today we are exhibiting that Minneapolis is willing to step up, is willing to work with partners and do the right thing. And as a council member, I hear from constituents on a daily basis about their want for us to slow down speedy vehicles. It's actually one of the top constituent concerns that my office hears. And so I'm happy that we're taking this step today. This traffic camera pilot goes hand in hand with our Vision Zero goal to end traffic deaths. But unfortunately, we have lost 45 people to speeding cars in our city in the last 3 years, and hundreds more have been seriously injured. And this is truly devastating, and I'm glad that we're taking a step to be on the right side of correcting this. So the project was done in collaboration between the city and state. I hope we'll see some great impacts from this pilot. I know our residents will be curious to have us follow up with data and metrics as we proceed, and I look forward to continuing to do that and continuing to do this, continuing to build out this pilot in all the ways that make sense for our city. And next I'll introduce our Public Works Director, Tim Sexton, who has been a real champion for this, imposing smart technology in our city to help us reach our goals.
Good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Tim Sexton. I have the honor of serving as Director of Public Works for the City of Minneapolis. As mentioned, too many lives have been lost on our roads for no reason other than drivers simply going too fast. In worst cases, this leads to serious and fatal injuries for other drivers, but also for people biking and walking. As a reminder about why this matters, the faster a car is going when it gets in a crash, the more damage it does to other vehicles and to people. So by reducing speeds, we are reducing the injuries and the deaths that can happen on our roadways. The city's Vision Zero effort is our collection of strategies to eliminate all serious and fatal crashes in Minneapolis. This traffic safety camera pilot will play an important role in making our streets safer alongside other Vision Zero strategies like traffic calming and other proven traffic safety treatments. We're putting the final touches on installing and testing the cameras right now as we speak, and we'll get to see some of the work in just a few minutes. Tomorrow, the 5 cameras will officially go live, and here's how the program will work. During the first month of the pilot, that's basically the rest of October, we'll only issue warnings to drivers, not citations. As soon as November 1st, we'll begin issuing citations to drivers going 10 miles per hour or more over the posted speed limit. A warning is going to be issued on the first offense for all drivers. After that warning, we'll issue a $40 fine to repeat offenders. Now, this fine will increase to $80 for drivers going 20 miles per hour or more over this posted speed limit. Drivers also, if they don't, instead of taking the fee for their first citation, they can also instead opt to take a free traffic safety class. An important note, too, about these citations, though, is they will not be recorded on a driver's record. As mentioned, this is meant to be preventative and slow people down. It is not meant to be a punitive response. I hope that you can see by this intentional design of the pilot that this is not making money off of speeding cars or letting those drivers off the hook. It's about changing dangerous driving behavior so our streets are safer and lives are ultimately saved. While we're not doing the work to generate revenue or to win any awards, we are being recognized for this work. And that being that role model helps other communities understand what we're doing and hopefully take some of the same actions. This year, Minneapolis was one of 2 cities in the country that received the 2025 Vision Zero for Youth U.S. Leadership Award. And we were recognized for our work to prioritize transportation safety for kids by policy changes, including this traffic safety camera pilot, along with cultivating strong partnerships with Minneapolis Public Schools and the elected leadership you see here today. As mentioned, a pilot like this takes a lot of work to make a reality. In addition to the critical work of our state delegation and local elected officials, I really want to recognize our entire Vision Zero team who's here today, led by Ethan Foley, who's been mentioned a number of times, along with Steve Hooser, who made a lot of important work coordinating at the legislature. Internally, though, you can't see it on TV, but we have a number of people in yellow vests. And it's important to recognize them because a pilot like this takes a lot of work, from electricians to people managing the streets to working out the contracting. It really is a multidisciplinary and collaborative approach to get this done. And another key partner I want to recognize is Ahmed Adow from our Regulatory Services Department, who's going to play a critical role in helping to process these citations. So I want to thank again everyone who played a role in making this pilot a reality and helping make our city a safer place to drive, walk, ride, and roll. With that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Director. We'll open to any questions you might have.
For the, perhaps for Senator Dibble, the authority for this pilot is 4 years, I believe, and I'm wondering.
I'm going to call Ethan up to help. He's our phone a friend with some of the details, but yes.
Well,
is that right for you?
the goal
Yeah,
is.
our chief officer is right here.
Yeah. The question is, after the pilot is over, is the goal of the legislature to turn this into a permanent program for the reasons you all outlined? And if so, what is it that people in the legislature are going to need to see from this in order to make that happen and sway anybody who might be not interested?
Great. I would, well, I don't want to prejudge the outcome. We want to see how the pilot goes and what its effects have been. Hopefully we'll see slower speeds and the corresponding improvement in terms of lives saved and less property damage, and the like. And that's why we're doing this as pilots in Mendota Heights. Who's doing the other pilot? Yeah, and so assuming that we're going to see some good improvements, in speeding and the corresponding improvements in loss of life, et cetera. Yes, we would want to extend this to more permanent and see if other local jurisdictions are interested in taking the same step.
I'm not sure who can answer this question, but how does the fine work? I mean, what incentive do I have to pay if it's not going on my license? What mechanism will you use to get people to pay, even though I know it's not about the money, but I got to be held accountable if I'm caught speeding?
Right. I don't know, Ethan. Do we? Yeah, I was going to say. Can we send them to? Yeah, we'll send them to collections. So, right.
So is it going live today or tomorrow? We heard both.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
First.
Yeah, the question, did you guys discuss with the community members to come up with this kind of camera use? So.
Discuss with the community. Yeah, there was a lot of community process. Ethan, you want to talk about community? Yeah, and of course, this was all subject to extensive public hearings, and many changes were made through the process that maybe Senator Mohammed can talk about, that were responsive to concerns expressed by the community as represented through their elected representatives. Ethan, or legislative process?
On the legislative process, obviously this bill started out as a statewide bill, and now it's a pilot program because members of the legislature, both sides of the aisle, wanted to see data. They wanted to see if there could possibly be behavioral change. We know that in cities that have implemented this type of program, that there was a behavior change. We also wanted to ensure that it wasn't punitive. And of course, that takes a level of behavior change. When somebody gets a ticket, that first one is a warning. Now they know when they do it again, they're going to have to pay a fee. And if they don't, it's going to go to collections. Or they can take a class, and that can also help with behavior change. In terms of community, we had countless conversations with community meetings. We know the city has done countless meetings in community. We consulted with organizations like the ACLU, and we know at the end, when it became a pilot program, they approved the policy as it is.
Hi everyone, Ethan Foley. I'm Minneapolis Public Works. To add on the community engagement side of things, so we started at the City of Minneapolis engaging with folks around our Vision Zero action planning in 2019. And what we really heard from people right away is people wanted us to be proactive in making our streets safer. And they wanted a variety of strategies around that, and they were concerned about unsafe driving. And we started then looking at the idea of traffic safety cameras, and we started asking people then about the idea. And we heard generally a lot of support for doing a pilot, but we also heard some concerns or questions about the details of how it might operate. And so what we worked with our legislative partners is really to address that feedback that we were hearing. And what I'm really excited about is as we've continued to engage with people, as we've been sharing the details of what was put together at the legislature, that support we've seen has grown a lot. In our most recent engagement this year, we heard from more than 1,200 people. More than 80% of those people were offering support for the pilot program.
Another question, like in different cities, there are some of them like practicing camera, but at the same time there is they are facing like in terms of safety wise, because when people are really worried about the speed, at the same time they are creating more accidents, especially between collision of the cars and something like that one. So did you guys get some experience from other cities like California or something? Because they start at the meantime they stop, so I can see.
I can speak to that. Yeah. So we definitely looked at how traffic safety cameras had been implemented in other cities across the country, both what worked and also some of the things that we wanted to change, right? We saw that some cities did have, disproportionate communities of color were impacted by the fines and had fines that were really, really growing exponentially. And we did not want to implement that kind of program here, so that's why we made some of the changes. I guess the other thing I would say is, we really designed this to be about community buy-in and local control. So what this pilot does, it allowed Minneapolis and Mendota Heights to adopt a traffic safety camera pilot program if they decided to. And when we had our legislation that was about moving this forward statewide, same thing. So no city or town or township in Minnesota would have to adopt this program. It would be an option for local governments if they were hearing from their community that this is a safety measure that they wanted to put in place.
You mentioned 11 more locations that would be coming, and you said, Mayor, within the next year. How fast are we talking? What's the plan for rolling out? If we're up to, if 42 is the high point number, how soon do we get to that?
Yeah, so if 42 is the high point. We are going to press to get as many of these rolled out as we can over as short a period of time as we can. Now, obviously, there's work that Public Works needs to undergo in order to determine both the intersections and the locations that are best and most conducive to driving down the number of traffic deaths. And at the same time, we want to make sure that the pilot gets a full run in determining whether it's functional or not, and we want to be able to do everything we can to obviously make people safer. If you were to ask me what the 5 or 11 locations are, I wouldn't tell you even if I knew, because I want people to be thinking that they may themselves get a ticket in the mail if they are speeding, no matter where they are in the city. If you're thinking to yourself, gosh, I don't know where those cameras are, I better slow down, that's exactly the reaction that we want right now.
So what about the when, by the way?
The 11 is next year. The 5 is tomorrow. The 11 is next year, and the 11 is a combination of both traffic and red light cameras.
So,
Ethan, do you want to? What's that?
how do you guys choose
we
those
don't
5
have-
locations?
I'm sorry?
How do you guys choose those 5 locations?
The 5 locations are determined by the spot that you and everybody out there watching speeds the most. So don't do it.
The police, these cameras are only in 5 locations. I get that there's like a citywide deterrent element here and, an element of mystery. The police department has been writing very low levels of traffic and moving violation tickets. St. Paul has a whole traffic division of their police department, and there's doesn't seem like there's a similar level of focus in the police department.
That's right.
Is there an interest in increasing police enforcement of moving violations?
Yeah, we used to have a traffic enforcement division. That traffic enforcement division was moved to focus on more violent and potentially dangerous crimes that are happening in the immediacy. And I think people have recognized that, yeah, we do need enforcement in the city. I mean, the quickest route to erode trust in government is to pass laws that you're not ultimately going to enforce. And so what this does is gives us the ability to, yes, enforce the law, to have a repercussion without penalizing, without it being punitive. But there is a repercussion if you're going to be speeding and busting through a red light in the city, even when police can't be there in the immediacy. And so we've seen instances when people will wait an inordinate amount of time for a police officer after an accident. We've seen instances when police officers don't have the time to enforce the law around traffic violations. This gives us the ability to do it even when officers aren't right there. And it works. I mean, Representative Sensamira mentioned one of the first tickets that she got. I've only gotten a few tickets in my life, but one of them was back when I was living in Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., and it was going through a red light. And they took a picture, and they sent it in the mail. And my mom saw it. It was kind of embarrassing, and I didn't do it again. Thanks, everybody. So we are walking right out of here. We're going to go down in between First and Hennepin, and we're going to look at one of the very first traffic cameras.